Nearing the end of a grading period, third graders at Kings Park Elementary are testing their knowledge. Reading a variety of graphs? Check. Showing your work? Check. Meeting system-wide standards through collaborative team assessments? Check and double check.
Assessment is a very broad term. And when we talk about assessment at our team meetings, we may mean something as simple as an exit ticket, as simple as doing a check, thumbs up, thumbs down for students in class.
Make times work, and we could pull.
One classroom is very different from another classroom, but we all need to teach the same standards and we all need to assess it. And the goal is to be able to come back together as a team and talk about how the students did with a common language using a common assessment.
Do it there, tally it, and then reply on there as to a prediction. That's not
Collaborative teams use a variety of protocols depending on their meeting purpose. In the next few minutes, you will see a third grade team using a protocol to develop common assessments by following these steps. First, establish the purpose of testing.
I thought we would start with just confirming what our purpose for testing is. How will we be using these results?
Make sure that the kids have understood what we've been instructing them on, and so they can successfully meet the goals for the SOL.
They do okay with reading a graph, answering questions that go with the graph, but then they don't use this vocabulary in their real world. They don't apply it in their real world. And
so the first step is getting clear on purpose, and then our next step is to get clear on the learning targets. We've typically already unpacked them, but it's to ask ourselves what targets specifically do we want to assess.
After the team agrees how scores will be used and what decisions they inform, step 2 emerges: clear learning targets.
I had sent out yesterday, and I'm hopeful you might have had a chance to look at it, the possible learning targets. These are just the things that are possible that we could assess. What are there any that we need to take off of this list or add to this list? Do you want to assess that extended indicator that was 318A5 at the end?
I would, because that's one of the few concepts they actually understand based on their prior knowledge of games and playing.
Well, it's really important to know the purpose of why you're building the assessment, because otherwise nobody's going to be on the same page. So for example, when we sat down together today, we talked about the fact that our purpose was we want to really assess, can the children graph? Can they read graphs? Can they read other people's graphs and answer questions about graphs? And so our assessment needed to answer those same questions as well. So as a team, we all agreed, these are the standards we need to use. This is where we need to be when we're finished. So what do we need to do to get the kids there? And by creating that assessment together, we all have a very clear picture of what our students need to know. And then our hallway conversations, our lunchtime conversations, when we have more CLTs to talk about planning, correlate right back to where our end is. Because if we don't know where we're headed, we're never going to get there.
We've already graphed our birthdays. What are we graphing now? Abram?
The whole third grade.
After creating essential learning targets, step 3 begins: create an assessment plan.
They have to draw the combinations.
And
which
how
is
is
what we
that
do.
different than 318A2? List all possible outcomes for a given situation.
That sounds the same.
It sounds the same.
Okay.
It's just I guess the examples in the standard don't say combinations, so I never personally think that's a combination, but
I didn't read it
teach
that
them
way
it
either. Yeah.
because I want them to know.
We meet and we talk about the standards, and then we go back and we teach the standards, and then we assess them.
And with that, you can build that into morning meetings and your morning message, and you can be constructing graphs. Dear graphers, slow down. Good morning. Yes. This morning you'll graph the birthdays of third grade students.
Not that they're taking a test every day. It can be a quick question. It can be filling out an exit ticket. Here's a bar graph. Tell me what this is, so I can assess, and then I can support those students who need it, and I can see who understands it, so I don't waste a lot of time.
What'd you get? 3.
Step 4 is about selecting a suitable format for assessment. What will the assessment look like? True or false? Short answer? Always match the assessment to the learning target.
Now we just need to talk about what you want this assessment to look like. So what are you thinking?
Those technology-enhanced questions where they have to pull the graph up to where it needs to go.
I'm thinking that it might be
We want to look
better
at
to assess.
how which standards or SBIs we're assessing so that we can look at the verbs in there and see if it says construct a graph, then presumably we want kids to actually be making something and have a product. So we need to look at both the SBIs, talk about ideally this is how we want the assessment to look, this is kind of how many items or what we're thinking we want it to look like, and then we make our plan from there based
the
on
B's,
that.
construct a line plot, construct a picture graph, organize data for a bar graph, label the axis on a bar graph.
Once the team has
So it looks
established
like a lot of
purpose,
these
learning
could be
targets,
handled
a plan and format,
by that
it's time for step 5.
assessment
Assemble
rather
the
than
assessment.
choice.
Just decide what you want to do, and then we could build it in Smart Notebook, and then they would do it at a computer with the Smart Notebook software up.
Once we've got our plan together and we've decided what we want it to look at, like how many items we want, then we usually break off into teams, and that's what we did kind of at the end of the session today. We'll come back tomorrow and people will have broken off into smaller groups to find items, develop items, create what we want, and then we'll come back together as a whole group and everybody will put out the items that we think we want to use and we'll finalize it from there. Avoid coming together and just picking up items and throwing them together.
Can we add another column so we can put the item numbers
name.
exactly right in?
Once assessment tasks are agreed upon and assigned, timelines are established. Then the entire third grade team will return to their classrooms to assess students' work and collect data. Step 6. Try out the assessment and collect data. By examining information, teachers can identify ways to tailor their instruction to support all learners. Assessments and the collection of data can happen during morning meetings, whole group and small group settings.
In terms of getting to use the assessment again, I really believe that a well-developed assessment is going to serve you. It takes a little time to set up at the beginning, but it's going to serve you. And as long as the standards haven't changed, what we typically do after we've created it and administered it, we come back and look at our data. And sometimes we find we may have an item on there that really didn't work the way that we wanted to. It didn't give us the information we want. So we adjust that item. So in future years, it's usually just a matter of tweaking the assessment because we've invested the time up front with creating it. From here, do you want to take some CLT time tomorrow? I don't know
A strong collaborative team thrives on professional trust and communication. A meeting centered on assessment has a clear agenda and these steps. 1. Purpose of testing. 2. Clear learning targets. 3. Test plan based on targets. 4. Select item format or match assessment method to learning target. 5. Assemble the assessment. 6. Give the assessment and collect data. And finally, revise as needed. A strong common assessment is tied to system-wide standards, benchmarks, and indicators. When learning targets are known, grade-level teachers assess instruction with common purpose.
It makes a huge difference. We're much stronger together, and then in our classrooms, we're stronger as well.